is Kit or Miss, the weekly podcast where we've looked at most of the best kits from this year's World Cup. We've got one final confederation to go through, which we're going to do today, which is the South American kits. I'm Matt Dick, here with Phil Dells. Phil, great to see you again. How you doing?
Oh, very well, Matt. Good to see you again as well.
I have to say, these South American kits, I'm a little bit disappointed by. I think we've had, I mean, the African one last week was really strong, and it's a much tougher category to pick out some real outstanding kits. Maybe they'll go down in history for moments and the players that wear it rather than the actual kits themselves.
Yeah, I think we were saying just before, it doesn't feel like a strong continent as far as kits go, which is surprising, given the history of these teams. And I think there's a few nations I can think of, I won't mention in case it's a spoiler, but there's a few where I would expect them to have kits there that didn't, as in have kits that we like. So yeah, not the best effort. Having said that, I think there's a few good ones. It's perhaps quite top heavy. So I think there's a few strong contenders. I'm expecting this top five to be decent, but there wasn't a lot to choose from. So I think you're right. There isn't. I don't really have any honourable mentions, for example, I think, for this category.
Yeah, a lot of them went either quite dark or yellow or white. So we'll come on to. We have managed to pick a top five out of this continent, though. So we will get there. Where are we heading off to first with your first choice?
Well, we're starting with Ecuador, and this is I believe the away shirt here. Very dark navy and a kind of bronze, kind of secondary colour. That colour combination, kind of similar to the sort of black and gold trend, which has been very popular and for good reason. But I like this one from the brand Marathon, who have been working in South America. They're largely a South American brand and have worked with a few different nations. So it's definitely falls into the clean, kind of sleek category. But I like the collar in this one, and I think this kind of combination again with the dark colours, and it's that secondary colour which stands out because I like that. What looks to be a kind of, like I say, a bronze shade. I have to see that on the pitch to see how it looks, but I like that choice because I think it would have been, again, it would have been easy to do a gold there and a black and gold. I think this very dark navy with that bronze colour, strong. I think it works with the collar. It's not. As far as I know, it doesn't have anything in terms of intricate details, in terms of the pattern, which maybe would have elevated it higher. But I did like this one as a top five.
Yeah, I will stay in Ecuador because Ecuador have actually just been bumped up just before we start recording. I did a late change. Uruguay were on my list, but the more I looked at the kit, I went, do I really like it? The home kit, I think I purely went for it because it was a different colour than what most of the other nations in the continent. So that's dropped out and it's been replaced by Ecuador's home kit. It's a yellow kit. There's several yellow kits in this continent, but I think it's a clean finish. The trim is nice. It looks okay. It's a nice balance to the away kit. I think they have got a white kit as well, so that throws in there, but I don't think that quite matches up to the away kit and the home kit. So it snuck in at number 5, but I wouldn't say I'd be campaigning for this to be up there with one that I would want to remember for all time. But it's snuck into the top 5, so a good balance from Ecuador, I think. Just solid kits, solid country, potentially solid results. It's going to be one of those, isn't it?
Yeah. So a slow start, perhaps we could say. Will it get better? We'll see. But no, I do think the home's good. I must say the Marathon logo looks a little bit clunky, doesn't it, spell out? But I think despite that, I do think their efforts are strong from a design perspective, albeit relatively simple. But yeah, I would definitely say, of all the constants we've looked at, this one definitely is a bit of a slow burn. We'll see how we get on there.
Yeah, I definitely feel both of those. If it was any other continent, probably wouldn't have made our top 5 list. But that's what we're finding when we're doing this sort of rundown, keeping us on our toes. Where are we heading off to for number 4?
Well, we're going to one of the biggest nations in football, if not the biggest. Certainly a nation we always look forward to seeing at a World Cup. That's Brazil. And I like the home shirt, even though it's not necessarily a standout Brazil home shirt. I think my thinking is very much along the lines of the conversation we had about England. We've got a very subtle pattern that's part of the shirt. I'm not certain if it's embossed or actually part of the fabric, like a jacquard.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it's embossed, like England's, and that for me is a, as we talked about in previous pods, a win. I think it's always interesting with a nation like Brazil. What secondary color do they go for? This was very dark, which is quite
Hmm.
different.
Hmm.
Often with Brazil, of course, we've had other shades, much lighter blues, sometimes green.
Yeah.
So I think this choice is actually quite different, but I like that. And yeah, ultimately, I think with Brazil, obviously, you know what you're going to get. They're, one of a number of nations where you're not going to have a different base color, so you're looking at other elements. What's the secondary color? What's the pattern?
Hmm.
And I think Nike have ticked off those boxes well. Worth just mentioning the collar as well. Like the England conversation, it's very easy to be a bit too fancy with that. I like this relatively simple approach. In again, we're coming Nike for the last kind of rotation. We're doing all sorts of weird collars.
Mm.
I'm very happy that they've moved back to a more straightforward approach, because in the last, so kind of, I guess this is between the Euros and now, we had some pretty ugly collars. So I'm
Yeah.
glad we're not in that territory now.
It's quite a deep collar. Looking at the picture we've got here, it's quite deep. The dark band it goes lower than I would anticipate, but I think it works. I think because it's dark rather than I don't know, maybe more of a traditionalist when it comes to Brazil kit, maybe a green, maybe a light blue. For me, this missed out completely because I think the pattern is too subtle. Unless you see it in Ultra HD, as we've mentioned before, unless you see it reflecting off the sunlight, I think it's too subtle. I would argue it's one of the weaker Brazil kits we've seen in a long time. But this is why we have a pod like this to share our thoughts. I'm going to another big hitter at number 4. Argentina's away kit. Again, this was another late entrant for me. I saw this and went, everyone's raving about it. It's okay. But the more you look at it, it's a dark base with a sort of feather pattern on it, and then I suppose it is redeemed by the light collar and the Adidas badge being white or silver, but a light color, so it kind of stands out. I think I've probably put this in the top 5 because it could be the last kit we see Messi playing at a World Cup. And you could argue you could have done the same for Ronaldo. You could do the same for Modric. Do the same for Bosnia and Herzegovina with Dzeko. He could be having a debut badge as well as being over 40. But I think if it is the kit that the last one that Messi wears, you could make the argument for the home kit as well. I think that will make it go down in legacy as the kit that Messi retired in. So that could elevate it more. A lot of people have been big fans of this one. I've not been won over by the hype, and that's okay. Everybody's allowed their own opinion. But for me, it's even in what is a weaker field of kits, I still don't think it's as great. I think you're going to have to work harder to win me over for this kit. Nice kit, bit different from what they normally go for.
Yeah.
I don't think it quite hits the mark. I would say it probably misses slightly, but it's still a nice kit in comparison to those from the same continent.
Yeah, I'll save my my pitch till later because it does appear later in the list. But I think you hit on some good points there. Ultimately, I think this is one of a number of Adidas kits which have been widely praised. I think it's fair to say Adidas, if you were to give, well, I would say of the kind of the vote of the general people, shall we say, they have got a lot of plaudits. Obviously, they have a massive group of teams anyway, so if you throw enough darts at the wall, you're going to hit a few times. But I do think this, I'd say, exemplifies the Adidas approach, which is very much the kind of they're playing as much to a lifestyle audience as they are the sports audience. But again, I'll save a few more pointers for later. But,
what a wee tease for us to look forward to. Where are we heading off to then for number 3, Phil?
Well, we're going just nearby to Uruguay, and I think this kit is another one which has had a lot of buzz, and it's a very interesting approach, a very different approach. to what we've seen from before from Uruguay. From a color perspective, it's actually very similar to the Argentina shirt we just talked about. A very dark base and kind of lighter blues and purples, and an almost like an iridescent look with the swoosh and the Federation crest. Centralized again, and we mentioned it a few times with the likes of Japan and a few other teams. And the particular pattern here, it strikes me, or it reminds me, I don't know if this is the story exactly, but it reminds me very much of the kind of, if you think kind of South or Central American kind of ancient civilizations, almost like a kind of headdress or like a kind of, it's got that sort of look to it. I can imagine that being maybe some of the inspiration, but nonetheless, a really unique effort. And I think again, it's everything really. It's not just the colours, but it's the way that the pattern is framed. A very unusual way to have it, keep it in that way. The top half of the shirt, in the sort of, again, almost like a kind of those rows of rectangles. So a memorable look, and I think from a colour perspective, one which is likely to win people over if it hasn't already.
See, I think it's a really again, it's one of those that I flip flopped on. I think I've ended up thinking it's a really strange kit again, and maybe different when you see it on the pitch. It's almost like a stained glass effect that sort of stopped, like the windows cut off halfway through the kit. I don't really see where they're going with it. Would it have been better if it had gone all the way down the kit? Possibly. I think it would have been something different. I think partly because there's so many kits from the South American continent of that colour scheme that they always kind of look a bit similar. And yeah, it just doesn't work for me. I can see why people like it because it is nice, but for me, I like the middle band of windows for or rectangles being slightly different colour, light schemes. If there is a really good story behind it, it'd be really great to know what the thinking was from Nike. But it's not for me. But that's that. Everybody's allowed their opinions. We keep saying. So it's an interesting one. I suppose they've got the balance between the light blue and the dark blue for the two kits. So, let us know what you think. Do you agree with Phil? Do you agree with me? Do you have a completely different thought as well? That's okay. The email address to get in touch is kitormisspod@gmail.com, or you can visit us on socials and leave comments below as well. For me, at number 3, I've gone, I think it's the most colourful kit in the whole selection from South America. I may be overstating its case there, but it's Paraguay's home kit. So this is a red and white striped number. I think what I really liked about it is it's slightly different from the rest of the South American kits. B, I think the collar and the sleeve cuff really set it apart. We see a lot of red and white kits, but the light blue contrast of that really, really works for me. And what I do like is that it's not full stripes. They look like they're it's not a pure block. They're sort of waving in and out. The contrast in the white and the red, like where the red starts, where the red ends, it's different from a block or a pure block of red that you maybe see from Sunderland, Southampton sort of thing. So I quite like it. I think because it is different from the other kits in this continent. Again, would it be as high in another continent? Possibly not, but I think it's a strong number from Puma. I think it's okay, but it's being okay in this continent. It's got as high as 3, so I don't mind it. I don't think it's that offensive, but I think you've got other views, haven't you?
I do. I think for me the stripes, it has the kind of almost like a hand drawn look to me. It almost looks like a crayon, or again, that might just be my perception, but I'm typically with stripes. Again, they're hard to innovate on. So we talked about with the USA one that went in a very different direction, which I quite liked. With this one, it's very much a taste thing, but I didn't like the look of the stripes as much. And it's funny. I mean, again, I really enjoy having again the conversation, seeing it again through your eyes there. And yet, for me, it was actually quite low on my list across the board. But that is again, we've talked about it, the great thing about these discussions. But yeah, I think you're right that it does stand out. Paraguay's home color palette does stand out, whereas it wouldn't in other continents. Obviously, once we get to the World Cup, we're kind of having that wonderful mix as well. So we'll have these really interesting combinations. But there aren't many. Despite red and white stripes being so common in the game, there's not many nations that have that as their regular motif. So yeah, it's not one for me. But having said that, I liked your argument.
Yeah. So it turns out I like using crayons. Phil doesn't. There we go. Maybe I haven't moved on from using crayons. But so that's Paraguay at number 3 for me. Phil, where are we heading off to at number 2 for you?
This is a very controversial shirt for a couple of different reasons. This is the Brazil away kit. Now, many people have. This had a strange backstory. If you'll indulge me for a second. So originally, it was rumored that Nike would release a red Brazil kit, and Brazil had a red kit in their history briefly. That was very controversial, and for all sorts of reasons, they pulled the plug and changed the color scheme last minute. Now, whether or not you believe the timings of all these things, the eventual story that came out on the release of this kit was that it was based on the colours of the poison dart frog, and I really liked that story. And again, like we talked about with like the France away shirt, when you see the pictures of the frogs, if you just search poison dart frog Brazil, you will see some examples. Not only the colours, but that pattern, which has a very unusual pattern to it, but it very much looks like the skin of a poison dart frog. And I thought that was such again, even if it was a bit shoved in last minute, given the colour changes, I liked the story and the colour combination. Brazil, I mean, it's funny, this is now the third kit we've seen with a similar colour scheme for Argentina, Uruguay, so I can see the similarities being a downside, but I like this one amongst that group. The Jordan logo, it doesn't really make sense. They've shoved it in there, but I mean, that's almost a separate discussion in and of itself. Interesting that Nike chose to use this kit to do that. Obviously, we're used to seeing that with PSG for so many years. But I like the overall package, despite the very kind of troubled journey. There was, again, all sorts of changes or what have you. The eventual kit, I think it stands out not only because of, again, the colours and the pattern, the Jordan logo. The whole package looks, perhaps of all the kits of the World Cup, one of the most, I would say, futuristic or sort of forward-looking kits. It's certainly not a kit you would have seen or typically would have seen at previous tournaments for me. So I rated it, and it has the central crest, which is funny. We mentioned before that there weren't many teams. Turns out there actually have been quite a few, because we keep bringing them up on these top fives. But I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say this might be a controversial pick, but it could have easily been my number one. I liked it that much.
Wow. I'm at the other end spectrum. It just missed out on the worst list. I think because I didn't see that it was a tree frog inspired. I was like, is it Jaguar inspired? What's going on? What's going on with the Jordan logo just stuck next to the badge? Why have they gone central to the badge? I think there's so many questions raised from it. And partly because you expect so much from a Brazil kit that this, for me, misses the mark. Yeah. I don't see it. Again, if it's different on the pitch in Ultra HD, which could be the real defining factor of a lot of these kits with the embossed pattern. If that makes a difference, it may be, but I'm not as keen on this Brazil kit. I think it would have been nice to have seen a red kit from Brazil, just as something a bit different. But I understand that there's feelings other ways from other people. So split again. This has turned out to be quite a divisive continent in more ways than one. So let's move to my number 2, and we are heading to Colombia, and there are several yellow kits, as we've mentioned. For me, in this continent, this was the best one, and I think this is probably the one that competes with the others in other continents. I really like the contrast, the trim on the collar and the sleeve to the Adidas 3 stripes. I think they've done that really, really well. It's quite similar to Brazil, in my opinion. I think they've done it just a bit better, which could be a bit controversial. I think it looks nice, and it's the best home kit in this group for me. So I've swung for Colombia rather than Brazil, just because of the slight variations of colour, the way that Adidas have used what we've seen in other kits throughout this run of podcasts, throughout this World Cup. There's been ways that Adidas have worked their magic, and I really like this number. So I've put it as number 2 for me. Jump into your favourite kit now.
Well,
already mentioned.
So the Argentina away, it's my favourite of the continent. And indeed, I think, without wanting to repeat myself or repeat our discussion too much, my case for this one very much, I think, again, is that it is Adidas trying to, I would say, go a little bit more for that, almost reaching to the non-footballing crowd as much as they are the footballing crowd with this one. That pattern, the look of it has the kind of look, like you say, it's kind of a bit of a floral effect. Not really sure exactly the exact story. Not what you'd expect. We've seen Argentina, they typically have dark away shirts, whether that's dark blue or even black. And over recent tournaments, I've quite liked a lot of their away kits. And this one goes in a different direction. But for me personally, it was, though the colour scheme is similar to the ones we talked about, Uruguay, Brazil, having what looks like a black base, but then those shades of blue, we're splitting hairs in terms of the differences, because it is similar. I won't deny that. But I like this the most of all those combinations, because I think, again, black as a base colour is always a good starting point, and there's many directions you could go down. But I like that they've still incorporated those different shades of blue. It's a good combo with the home. Again, because the home is quite traditional, I think this one is afforded the chance to get a little bit more out there. And that's what we've got here. I think very much. It's also a pattern which benefits from going all over the body. Some shirts you kind of want to restrict it to the sleeves, or the chest, but I think it's the kind of pattern which works well. Probably the only thing, though it is my favourite, I would have liked to have seen the scale of the pattern a bit smaller and seen that, because perhaps I think that might have elevated it. So, literally, I would say take exactly what you got there, and I'd be interested to see that. Maybe it would look too busy. But all in all, I think for me, it's the kind of kit which, like a number of Adidas's kits, particularly their away kits, they've tried to do something which is almost completely ahistorical. It's not historical. It's not based on an old kit, though the colours are ones the country have used. So one of my favourites, my favourite of the continent. I think it's. I mean, is this the only one we've agreed on in the top 5 as well? Unless I'm forgetting one
in this
continent.
Round, yeah.
So that's quite a rare thing.
Which, seeing that we've said there haven't been that many great kits, we seem to have not settled on ones that we like apart from that Argentina away kit. For me, the best kit of the bunch is the Colombia away kit. I can see why people might say not, because the effect of the bubbles, I think it's possibly the picture we've got might not look as clean. It'd be really interesting to see on the picture, but I think it's because it is the contrast of the colours. It's a sort of darker blue base, which is lighter than the rest of the options from the continent, which is why it's landing in the top spot. But it's the contrast of the blue and the yellow that's on the collar, on the trim of the sleeves, and the Adidas badge as well. So I think it's a nice pairing, the Colombia home and away. I think on what has been quite a dark or yellow colour scheme for this continent, I think one stands out, and it is nice. If it would make an overall top 5, I don't know. I think it would be a harder case. I think you probably have a better case with the Argentina away kit than this one. But if Colombia go deep and wear this one and throw up a couple of surprises, it could be an interesting kit. I don't know, is it James Rodriguez's last World Cup potentially?
Probably is, yeah.
Could it be his last kit? We mentioned it with Messi, Ronaldo, Modric. Could it be very popular in Colombia? Well, we'll wait and see. But for me, it's slightly different.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't quite hit the mark.
Yeah, I think Colombia, this one was close for me. Maybe number 6 even on my list. So I do like it. And it's a surprising colour choice. So I agree that I think Colombia typically, if they have blue, they'll go for more of a royal blue. So this is a different choice, different shade. Obviously, with the pattern, you've got obviously quite a lot going on anyway, let alone the base color. So it was certainly a standout in terms of that. And no, I can see this having a lot of appeal. Certainly for me as a combo, Colombia. I had such high expectations going in. I don't think they met my own expectations, but that isn't to take away from them. Same with the home. I know we've moved past it, but just to quickly touch on it again, I really like the idea, but I wanted a bit more of the secondary colours. I wanted more blue and more red. Whereas I think this one does. I think the overall, I do prefer the away to the home. So it's pretty solid. But I think Colombia, their history again, they've had some really good kits. It felt like we could have had more, and probably across Adidas teams. They've largely been very good. So it perhaps speaks more to how good the other teams have been rather than Colombia. It's not that these are bad kits by any means. So no, I like that as a choice, and ultimately, like you say, with a good run, this one has a chance to carve out an identity.
Yeah, definitely our most divisive continent we've had so far, which from a small pool of teams and a small pool of kits, I wasn't quite expecting. But there's so many reasons why we enjoy kits, and it's been really, really interesting. Out of those, apart from the Argentina away, would there be any that you would say will go down as a long-term legacy kit? Maybe Brazil?
I think Brazil, particularly the away shirt, is so different that it has the chance, and obviously it will depend a lot on, like you said, iconic moments. So if you think of previous World Cups, you mentioned James Rodriguez. When I think of 2014, I think he's probably the player I think of first because of his exploits there. And that Colombia kit, it wasn't really my favourite, but I remember that kit because of him. So, who knows? Maybe it'll be a young player. Maybe it'll be Neymar, the surprise call-up. If he finally did, dare I say it, kind of actually win the World Cup, imagine that and the scenes of that. So that would easily elevate it. But I think ultimately it's surprising. I think, maybe this because it's the last one that we've recorded and we've seen so many kits. Without a doubt, this one was the most divisive. But ultimately, I'm excited to see these kits. Obviously, at the time this is going out, we've seen some of these kits already. And it's the best thing about World Cups because you have such an explosion of colour, of players you've rarely seen before. It's an exciting combo.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's run through your top 5 then, Phil.
Yes, we start with Ecuador's away shirt at number 5, followed by Brazil's home at number 4, Uruguay away number 3. In runner-up place, we have Brazil's away, and then my favourite was Argentina's away shirt.
And for me, it was Ecuador's home, I believe I went for. Argentina away, Paraguay's home, Colombia's home, and then Colombia's away. To round off what has been our most divisive continent, South America has left us divided. If you want to get in touch, share your thoughts, then do let us know. Find us on socials, comment below, and also drop us an email, kitormisspod@gmail.com. Next time, we're going to our worst kits, which I think could be interesting, Phil, because we've already had a couple of kits mentioned that are going to come up. So
I think both of us have picked kits that have been in previous pods, which is hilarious.
So a bit of a spoiler a bit of tease for that anyway. So do join us next week to find out the worst kits at this year's World Cup.